they're big names, Bill McKibben and Catherine Hayhoe and Michael Mann, and those are sort of the bigger names. Most times they're just sort of experts in the field and such. So that's more my bread and butter kind of thing. Hey, so we were doing some things behind the scene. We are now live, and let's just go jump ahead in the episode. We're at the top of the hour, so you're all set.
All set.
All right, let's do this. Like I said, we're gonna kind of go radio silent for a little bit, and we'll see you on the other side.
Right on.
Hey adapters, welcome back. Today my guest is Christian Shaw. Christian is a waterman, adventurer, and storyteller discovering a path to make an impact in the world at the intersection of passion and purpose. He is a teacher by nature and is passionate about sharing his skills and knowledge while inspiring others to join the movement for a healthier planet. Christian will introduce us to his organization Plastic Tides and how they are working to tackle plastic pollution. He explains why recycling alone is not the answer to plastic pollution and the importance of upstream solutions, reducing or replacing plastics. Christian stresses the fact that collaborative efforts of both individuals and organizations can mitigate plastic pollution. Hey, Christian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doug.
All right, we're talking plastics today, and that's a very important issue. But first, could you tell us where are we talking to? Where are you coming in from?
I'm here in Santa Cruz, California, and coming to you from the kitchen of my RV, Surf and Safari, which is a 27-foot safari trek that my partner Celine and I have been living in for about a year and a half now, since we transitioned to sort of a small life.
That sounds absolutely perfect for what you're doing. So I love it. And Santa Cruz, even more appropriate. We both know what kind of town Santa Cruz is.
Yeah, we do have a view of the ocean from our RV, and we do own our home. So, we're not quite 30 yet, and living in California, that's not too easy to do. So
my understanding of the real estate in Santa Cruz is it's insane. You needed to buy in 30 years ago. All right, so let's talk about plastics, and we're going to talk about your organization. But you know what? I think it'd probably be useful to get just an overview of what is the plastic situation. Why is this an issue that you've even created this organization around?
Yeah, plastic pollution is this issue that has emerged sort of alongside the petroleum industry. And, plastics are really useful for so many things in modern society. But as we all know at this point, it's gone too far, and now plastics are invading our lives in ways that they really shouldn't be. And so Plastic Tides was founded to address this issue. I first learned about the plastic pollution issue and its scope in my oceanography class when I was at Cornell University, and from there started thinking about this issue, and that was alongside thinking about what I actually wanted to do upon graduation and what career I wanted to go into. And so Plastic Tides was founded by myself and a few classmates. At the end of our studies, we organized an expedition, stand-up paddleboarding around the island of Bermuda. And the plan was to live off of our paddleboards for 10 days, self-sufficient, with all of our gear, filming for an educational web series and doing research on ocean plastic pollution, and all with the mission to eventually inspire youth to get involved and to be able to pursue a career or interest in environmental conservation.
Okay, how old is the organization?
We were founded in 2014.
Okay, and so you have a whole team there though. I was looking around the website and such, and so you have staff and like who you don't have to mention all the names, but you've got more than one of you. And what are people doing there?
Yeah, so we've actually got a really amazing team now. Over the years, we've worked with a lot of interns, typically college age interns, and that's been really great for us. And it's something that even as we grow and we start to be able to provide small salaries and stipends and things, it's something that we really feel is important to the core identity of our organization, and providing that, maintaining that youthful spirit, and also giving people a place where they can get their start, in this space. And so now we have myself and my co-founder Gordon are the directors, and we have JD, who is our gym program manager, which is our youth program, and Elsa, who runs our social media. She's been doing an amazing job running our social media team of about half a dozen people between all the different platforms and content creation and everything. And then Emily, who actually just started working with TerraCycle full time as well, has been doing a lot of our development and partnerships work. And so there's a few more people, but yeah, it's really actually inspiring the number of people that we have working with us now.
Very cool. All right, so I want to ask you more about Jim in a little bit, but let's talk about this notion of upstream solutions to the plastic problem. And so, what do you mean by that?
So throughout our history of Plastic Tides, we've been doing cleanups, and beach cleanups are a really great way to engage with the plastic pollution issue and to do your part and feel like you're making a contribution that's tangible. But at the end of the day, any of the beaches we've cleaned, you can come back to them, a week, a month, a year later, and there's going to be more plastic on that beach. And so what we've learned is that for us, focusing our efforts on projects that are going to stop the creation of plastics at the root are the most influential and the best place to spend our energy, and to help youth to actually take on projects that approach plastic pollution this way. And so a really good example is a school orchard, where if you have, fruit trees right outside the school where students are learning about regenerative agriculture, planting and maintaining an orchard, ecology, all the things that go into creating healthy food, and then potentially even being involved in the harvesting of that food that's going directly into the school kitchen to be served without any plastic or even necessarily any greenhouse gas emissions from transportation associated with that food source. And so that's the kind of solution where you can be checking all these different boxes and really impacting the amount of plastic that's used at the end in a huge way, but you might not perceive it as such because you're not seeing all those fruit cups piling up.
What about, I guess, in California, there's actual, laws to ban the use of certain plastic bags, plastic straws. From the policy side, is that something you're interested in, or is that a longer term part of what you're doing?
Yeah, policy is absolutely something we're interested in. And really early on in our journey, after we went to Bermuda, we came home to Ithaca, New York, and the issue of plastic microbeads uh, came to the forefront of our attention. And so we set out on an expedition from Ithaca towards Albany, the capital, to sample our local waterways for microbeads while bringing a message to the capital to ban microbeads. And that ended up being part of a much larger coalition throughout 2015, a number of other research projects and organizational campaigns that led to the Microbead Free Waters Act nationally being signed by President Obama at the end of 2015. So, legislation is absolutely something that we're interested in. But with our focus on our youth projects right now, it's up to the students. So some of the students absolutely are looking at different measures like local legislation, for instance, around straws or bags. And those things can be really effective.
Okay, so what about recycling? What I mean, we've talked about upstream, and so is recycling even part of the solution that you talk about? Is it, or is it more? I mean, I'm getting the sense like, well, recycling is not going to solve all our problems here, so we really should just focus on upstream solutions.
So recycling has been sort of co-opted by the plastics industry in a way that has really handicapped the entire uh, recycling industry over the past 50 years or so, because before the introduction of mainstream single-use plastics, people were actually really good recyclers, and the things they were recycling were metal, aluminum, tin, glass. And these are things that can be, for instance, in the case of aluminum, infinitely recycled. So one of our main partners is Pathwater, which is a pre-filled water bottle company that we refer to as a transition product, because you can buy it in 7-Eleven. It's filled with water. That's something that in our foreseeable future is that need is not going to go away. So you can fill that need to have that product on the shelf, but then somebody can take that bottle and it's educating them to actually go refill it, reuse it. And then when they do end up needing to discard it, they can recycle it. It's aluminum, and that aluminum can be recycled infinitely without breaking down. And so, that's where recycling really shines. However, when it comes to plastics, recycling them degrades their material physical qualities. And so plastics recycling actually isn't really economically viable. And there's an amazing podcast episode called Wasteland from NPR's Planet Money that I would suggest anyone listen to if they really want to get the in-depth story on, what happened with recycling. But the sort of short version is that the plastics industry has been investing heavily in plastic recycling, education, infrastructure, basically making the whole thing happen for a long time. And so that's why we're in the situation where we are now, where countries like China and India aren't accepting plastic waste because they're not actually recycling it, and they don't want to keep burning it or doing other things.
Wow, that's a bit depressing. We recycle here in our home, and there's a whole recycling program here in the city of Tucson. And there's this sort of kind of notion like, what's happening to this? Is it truly going somewhere and getting recycled in a way that we think it is? And I don't think some of the cities are as transparent as they should be on this issue.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's tough because, as you said, people do try and feel like they're doing the right thing, and it is important to still try and recycle plastics where you can. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's just not a very effective system.
When we get a plastic bottle, my wife and I are pretty obsessive about it. It's like we have like a long term relationship with it. We reuse it, but now there's the notion of like, all right, endocrine disruptors from the plastics, and you don't necessarily want to be getting all your water from plastics. And so, but I guess I reuse a bottle maybe 500 times if my kids don't get it. So, we try on our end. And on that note, you alluded to it, and it'd probably be mission creep for you a little bit, but do you follow at all what's going on with biodegradable plastics? Is this a potential huge solution? Because I imagine plastics aren't going away anytime soon, but are biodegradables, something in the pipeline?
Yeah, I do try and stay as up to date as possible in that field, and it's definitely challenging. So we encountered this in a big way for the first time with the microbead issue, and there's a really common polymer that can be created from cornstarch or other inputs called PLA, which stands for polylactic acid, and that has been used very extensively and marketed as compostable or biodegradable, and has really disrupted a lot of industrial composting or just local composting, companies and processes, because this stuff, although it is biodegradable, it will break down. It needs high heat and an extended period of time. So it needs, for instance, a very larger scale industrial composter. It needs to be in there for something like 90 to 180 days. whereas all the other compost inputs maybe are turning over in 30 days or less, and then this stuff isn't even creating quality soil. If you were to compost it just by itself, you're going to get almost nothing from it, and the inputs that are being used to create it are coming from typically monoculture, industrial ag, corn, soy, that type of thing, which if you look at is ethanol as well, that's used in that process. I mean, it's basically the petroleum industry just putting chemicals into the ground to get bioplastic out. So
Well,
that
no, go on, please go on.
yeah, so that that particular material is one that has created a lot of issues. However, just to wrap that thought up on a lighter note, I do think that there is a lot of potential in other aspects, and it really comes down to the application as well of the technology.
Well, imagine if they truly came up with a great biodegradable plastic, and let's say it even took 50 years to biodegrade in a landfill. That's huge, progress on something that might take 1,000 or 10,000 years. And so, but if we got to the point where we were truly creating biodegradable plastic, there is the risk that we all of a sudden create so much plastic because we say, hey, look, we can this it's biodegradable, and you all of a sudden there's different types of aesthetic pollution and such, and so I guess you'd have to watch. It's not all just good news if they found a truly biodegradable plastic.
That's an important insight, absolutely. And I think that's something that we're always wary of is, things that maybe are going to make consumers not feel as responsible as they should. And that's something that I think you can see being things like that supported by, the industries at large when they do come around, for sure.
Well, let's go back to what you had mentioned earlier with some of the youth leaders and the work that you're doing. And GYM, could you read the acronym again? It's
the Global Youth Mentorship Program, and that's because we're working with students from around the globe and connecting them with adult mentors, also from around the globe, to improve their project success in taking on issues in their school or community, where they're looking at things like the school orchard or hydration infrastructure, testing their school's water, making sure kids have access to refillable bottles, making sure they have places that they're comfortable filling it up, they trust the water source, and looking at plastic utensils in schools. And so, things of this nature, and as well, issues in the community, things like plastic bag fees, which when it comes to that type of legislation, the bag fee is the thing that we found is better than, for instance, a tax or a ban, because with a fee, people are paying for it, but then also the businesses are incentivized because they're being compensated for the bags that they do use. So yeah, things of that nature, and connecting these students with adults who can lead them through a step-by-step process, and it's really just about providing that support structure, the agency that comes with having the support of Plastic Tides. And we also have project models that students and mentors can work through that lay out some of these more popular projects. And so some students come to us without a specific unique project in mind, and so they can work with their mentor to decide if one of the project models we have would be applicable to their individual situation. And then, like I said, we have, students that have completely unique research projects and other things that they want to do, and can also benefit from that mentorship.
How does the process literally work? Let's say, so if a parent had they knew about you and they want to get their children involved, or you engaging with teachers, like what's the literal process?
So everything is through our website, and right now we are taking youth leader applications and mentor applications for our fall 2021 cohort. However, we plan to start working with these students in a sort of less engaged but still connected manner up to that point. So if there's students that want to get involved, just go to our website and check out the information, see if it's a good fit, and go submit an application, and it's that simple.
Okay, so if someone else wants to get involved, let's say non-youth people, I mean, obviously you take donations and such, but if people wanted to kind of get their hands dirty in some of the work that you're doing, maybe they're not even in your region, what do you suggest to them?
So likewise, on our website, we have our internship openings posted there. And so, we always have open positions throughout the year, and also just reach out to us directly. If you think you have something that you can provide, you want to get involved in some way, and you think you might be able to help us, just send us a message at hello@plastictides.org, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, and if I have this right, you have a fundraiser that's ongoing right now. It's related to kayaking around the world. Could you give me a little bit? Did I read that right? What is that?
Yeah, we have the Global Rising Tide Relay, which is a virtual paddling relay circumnavigating the world through the collective efforts of our community paddling on their local waterways. And so you can go to our website and check that out. And if you want to paddle and get involved, it's really easy. It's really low barrier to entry. It's $4 per mile. So we're aiming to raise $100,000 by paddling 25,000 miles around the world. And we're also working with Starboard, the leader in sustainability in the water sports industry, and they're planting 5,000 mangroves on behalf of the paddlers. So it's going to be offsetting the carbon footprint on that front as well.
Fantastic. And I was going to ask you that your partners, you have some corporate partners that are working with you?
We do, yeah. We have a few different corporate partners that we're working with. I mentioned Pathwater has been a really amazing partner for us. We also work with Buff, and they've been really great. We've worked with Croquis as well in the past, and a number of other companies, including Starboard. So yeah, corporate partnerships is definitely one of the ways that we've tried to support our programs, and it can be really beneficial when you find the right partnership.
Okay, so just wrapping up this interview, what's next for you? And we've been dealing with a pandemic, and I guess how has that impacted what you're doing? And I guess in the next 6 months, what's ahead?
Yeah, so the pandemic has created definitely some challenges for us. However, I think as a remotely run organization, we were rather well positioned to deal with it, and have done a pretty good job keeping up our momentum throughout sort of the second half of 2020. Launching our gym program is off to a really great start. We have about 15 students and half a dozen mentors working the program right now, and we're looking to expand that in the 2021 cohort. So for the next few months, we're just really focused on getting the word out there about the things that we're doing, and recruiting students and mentors for the fall cohort, as well as supporting the ongoing work of the youth leaders and mentors we have with us now. And we also have some plans to head to the Philippines, hopefully, and work with one of our co-founders, actually, at Plastic Tides Philippines. There's some really amazing stuff going on over there. So we don't have a ton of details yet, but that's on the radar for 2021, depending on how things are going with the pandemic, of course. But yeah, we're really excited, and it's been 2020 was challenging, but I think the most difficult part for us was really coming into the fall of 2020 with students having not gone back to school, being online, and the whole virtual burnout, where a lot of what we're doing is in the virtual space with the students and the mentors. And so in 2021, even more focus on having our students, our youth leaders, communicating and working on virtual literacy and communication through the platform Canvas that we have, which is a really, really awesome learning management system. But also, getting out there in the real world and doing things with their hands, and being outside and solving these issues. sort of at the core.
All right. Well, I just got a question that popped in, and in relation to your schedule, I think the fall of 2021 this year, I think there's a lot of ambitious goals of people traveling, and we'll see how it unfolds with the vaccine rollout. But I think everyone is just it's going to be this huge cluster if we're able to. So I hope we can. All right. Mike asks, are there specific policies or government initiatives you are keeping your eye on in 2021 that could possibly help aid in reducing plastic pollution? And I think you've mentioned some at the state level, but are there any others that you're thinking of?
So there have been some national initiatives that we've been following for 2021, absolutely, and I do think with the incoming administration that there's definitely a bright future on that front for 2021, and that's not an area that we have been specifically focused on, just because we're really trying to do one thing really well, and that's support our youth leaders, and so there's a lot of other organizations who have been organizing around those legislative initiatives, and definitely working to keep ourselves informed, and are excited to see what happens.
Okay, Christian, this has been great. Congrats for what you're doing there at both plastic stuff. We just need an army of people working on this issue, and good luck in 2021. And thanks for coming on. And I'm going to bring you into just chatting, but appreciate you coming on Simpatico and sharing your story.
Well, thank you for having me, Doug. It's been great.
All right, just hold on one sec. Hey, Christian, we're still live, but we're back. We just like to close out the episode, so that'll be the main episode that we share with you. But that was good. That was great. Time flies by, huh?
It does. It really does. So,
Oh,
thanks for some really good insights and some good questions. It was
well,
really fun.
I forgot if we talked about this in our production call, but like I've talked to a few plastic, oriented groups before, and just marketing as you fundraise, it's like all it takes is like one seal covered with plastic or something like that, and not that you want to exploit that, but you exploit it because it just people kind of it helps them get their heads around like what is all this stuff doing out there, and this is a real world consequence. So I don't know if you if that's part of your marketing, like wildlife.
Yeah, it is in part, and that actually speaks to our approach generally as well, with plastic pollution as an entry point of conversation to then talk about these other issues that affect climate change and other aspects of sustainability, because not everybody is necessarily ready to hear about the regenerative agriculture project, or something of that nature, whereas plastic trash on the street or on the beach or around a sea turtle's neck is something that they can see and they can understand and they can relate to, and then you can take the conversation from there and show people how plastic pollution is really just this one of these symptoms of the way that we are not respecting nature really, and how we interact and how we provide for the needs of society.
I think a sleeper issue, and I've had this conversation before, is you'd mentioned the micro plastic beads and stuff, and how they're breaking down and getting smaller and smaller and ending up in the ecosystems out there. And then I wonder, and it's probably worth just looking up, it's just as ocean acidification comes in, or does that play into all the plastic out there? I mean, is there just not enough plastic for that to make a difference? But will that, the acidification of the oceans impact that and have even more of a negative effect? I don't know. I should look that up, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I have spoken to people as well who feel strongly that the microplastic pollution in a lot of ways has been impacting corals in a way that it's maybe not necessarily always like the temperature pH change causing coral bleaching, but the other way around, the microplastics physically impacting the corals, and then the coral die off, creating those conditions. So it's interesting.
I got one more question here, and I'm going to let you go, Mike. Here in San Francisco, where I live, it's one of the only cities that I've seen that doesn't really use plastic bags en masse. We have a large reusable bag program here, and many people just use their own bags. If the entire country had a similar approach for at least most of the country, how much of an effect could that have on reducing the plastic pollution we have right now? That make a significant dent. And Mike, I just want to put a plug in for Tacoma Park, Maryland, just outside DC where I used to live. We all used our bags pretty en masse too. So there are some communities, but how would you answer that?
I would say absolutely yes, Mike. And I think that beyond the sort of initial impact of the plastic bags that are saved from all of those people bringing their bag, the sort of externality in terms of those individuals' mindset once they are bringing their bag and how they interact with plastic in the rest of their life would be an even greater impact, almost exponentially so.
All right. I don't know. Have you ever been to Florida? Have you traveled to Florida?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to Florida.
The grocery, I grew up in Florida, and grocery chain there is Publix. And
Yep.
I love Publix in the big picture. I love it. And when I go back home, I visit it, but it just eats at my soul because they're notorious. Like I'll come up there with milk, like maybe two other items. They're like, okay, let's double plastic that milk and then let's stick that. And I'll walk out of there with like 5 bags for like 3 items. And if I'm not paying attention and, when I'm traveling, I don't necessarily have my bags with me. And oh, people just they're so used to that sort of notion of the plastic. It really is nothing to them. And that's got to change.
Yeah, and that's, I think those entry points like the bags at the store are a great place to interact with people at that, really most basic and common level.
I was having a conversation and someone overheard us when I was working in the state of Florida, and it was an older gentleman, and I don't think he appreciated us talking about using bags instead of plastic. This was a wildlife agency too, and he just said, "Oh, well, you can get diseases when you reuse bags," and he's just talking about and I'm just thinking, I've reused bag 1,000 times. I'm sure maybe if you have raw chicken in there or something, maybe you could. But that was his excuse for that, not using plastic, and always stuck with me. I'm like, oh, that's a lame excuse, but
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing that will drive someone to make that decision, every
yeah.
time. It's if their health is concerned. So, yeah, it's definitely a tricky subject for sure. But, I think we're making progress.
Well, I think it's an argument. Just you need to regulate it. So like Mike in places like Maryland where it's required. You can't use plastic bags in the grocery stores, and people survive. And just final comment from Mike: there's no plastic bags here at all, and the ones I do have been using for months. All right, Mike, I am with you. I've got plastic. I've got
Right
bags.
on, Mike. Thanks.
I've been using the same grocery bags for years. I love it. I got my Australia ones too. All right, so Christian, I'm going to let you go. This has been fantastic. We should have this episode available hopefully in the next few days, and
Excellent.
put it on your website. I think this does probably a great job for the interview, and you'll see like the final product. Just explains who you guys are. So please share it far and wide, and we'll share it on our social media.
We will absolutely do so. And thanks again for having me. It's been wonderful.
All right, great. Well, you can just leave the StreamYard link, and we will be in touch.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
Have a great day.
You too, man.
All right, folks. Thanks to Christian doing some really cool work on plastics. Before I sign off for the day, I just want to let's look at the schedule tomorrow. There's no more episodes for today, but tomorrow I am hosting Kristen Baja, and we're going to talk about resilience hubs. She's been on before, and it's been great talking to her. And then Mike is going to be doing an episode creating content for your local community, and then 2 episodes from Kayla. First one is your leadership moment. What's your leadership choice? And then Monica Sanders, who I think she has been on before. She's coming back and chatting with Kayla again. So full day tomorrow. And I hope you guys all have a great day.